This week on Steel Horse Thunder, we talk to some incredible people with incredible stories at this year's Rolling Thunder's Run to the Wall. It's a mission. It's not just a cool ride with a bunch of bikes going out to D.C.
I spent 3.5 years in South Vietnam and 2.5 years in Hanoi.
It's deeply inspiring, and I just wanted to give him a good send-off.
It's a slow weekend for charity rides in Indianapolis, so Cindy and I invite you to join us on our personal ride.
I'd rather be on the bikes than in a car.
4 wheels moves the body, 2 wheels moves the soul.
I miss Eric. I miss him.
All that and much more on a very emotional Steel Horse Thunder. All right, Bill, I know you are the road captain for this ride. What does that entail for you?
Well, for us, this morning we have 73 bikes that are going to head off to Washington, D.C. for the demonstration ride that Rolling Thunder puts on every year.
Robert, you realize your ride here is probably longer than your ride from here to D.C., right?
Absolutely. It's worth it, though. But if you live in Texas, it's nothing. It's further from going across the state of Texas than it is riding from Texas to Indiana. So we're used to riding, and we ride a lot. And but this is a very worthy cause. I'm a retired Master Sergeant, U.S. Army, and we need to account for these guys, and we're not doing it. You know, there's my friend here is a POW, and he tells you he knows where the people are buried, and they're not accounted for, and so the government's just dragging their feet, and if we don't stay in their face, they'll just forget us.
Well, I think a million motorcycles is kind of in their face, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's in their face, and if you've never been there, you never see any alcohol, you never see anybody fighting. Everybody's there for one reason, and that's a very solemn event, and that's how they do it.
I understand you made a really long trip. I know we got a bunch of you guys came up from Texas. Where exactly are you from?
Yeah, the rest of the group came from San Antonio. I'm from Harlingen. That's about 20 miles from Mexico, in between Brownsville and McAllen. I think it logged about over 1,400 miles, so long trip. A lot of fun though.
Well, you know, we're in Indiana, so when you say, you know, well, most of these guys just came from San Antonio, like that's way up north, you know what I'm saying? That's still pretty far south.
Well, considering it takes almost about 10 hours to get from where I live to Texarkana, out of the state, that's a while.
You know, I can go across the state of Indiana in about 3 hours.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, that's the rest of the country. We're a little different down there at the border.
Hey, now I know you guys had a little something to do with this ride here. What was your purpose here?
Well, our purpose was we met with Rolling Thunder to bring awareness to this ride and find out what really was in their hearts. I mean, these guys are going out here, their diligence, they're staying with it. You know, a lot of things our government is not paying attention to that these guys as a group nationally are bringing to awareness, and that was the whole point, is to get out and let Indianapolis know, yes, it's race week, but it's Memorial Day weekend, and this is a humble ride. This is a ride that is to bring awareness to that soldiers and veterans alike all need this attention, and to bring these guys home, and it'll go on from generation to generation, and to get that word out, to have that keep coming our way.
Well, Donna, once again, we find ourselves up here at Harley-Davidson of Indianapolis. You're putting on quite the spread out here. There's plenty to eat, there's plenty of room, and you got a lot of bikes in your parking lot.
We do. We're very, very proud to be a part of this event. They've used our facility for a few years, and great group of people doing a great ride to the wall. I'm excited to be a part of this.
So, Robert, I know you came all the way up from Texas to do this ride. What does this mean to you?
Well, the ride, as far as Rolling Thunder, is accountability for all our POWs and MIA to remind the government that we still stand strong in getting a full account of our POWs and MIAs.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about your personal story?
Well, I was in Vietnam, July 67 through March of 1973. I was assigned to the 71st Assault Helicopter Company stationed in Chu Lai. I was on the Tet Offensive, the first part of the Tet Offensive, when I was shot down, and my crew and I, we survived together for 5 years. I spent 3.5 years in South Vietnam and 2.5 years in Hanoi. when we were released in March of '73, then I was returned back to the United States.
Now, what happens when you meet up with everybody?
Well, when we get to Washington on the demonstration ride Sunday morning, we're going to stage down in the Pentagon parking lot on the north parking lot, and we're going to meet roughly 1 million other motorcyclists that are going to go on the demonstration ride with us. And if you've never had the opportunity to see 1 million bikes all staged in one place, it's worth making the trip over to Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day weekend to see the demonstration ride.
Governor, we appreciate you coming out here for the Rolling Thunder ride to the wall. What does this mean to you?
Well, it's just, here in Indiana, what really makes Memorial Day special is not just that the whole world looks to us because of the greatest spectacle in racing. It's because here in Indiana, we never forget what Memorial Day is all about. And to see Rolling Thunder now 15 years in a row, saddling up, giving up time away from their families on a holiday weekend to honor those that have served, and especially our POW MIAs from Indiana. It's deeply inspiring, and I just wanted to give them a good send-off.
Linda, I know this ride has a special meaning to you. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
My brother, and this is my younger brother. Our brother's been missing in action since 11/28/1970. He was in Special Forces in a Special Ops group, was lost behind enemy lines after he helped get his team out. We have 5 different versions from the government in writing of what happened to him. Nothing has ever been brought back.
And how does that make you feel to know that there's so many different stories and so many different things and nothing, I mean, there's nothing that you have not received anything of any kind of clarity?
Well, we have no closure. I mean, in the back of your mind, you know Ron is gone, and then your other part of your mind is, there's a chance. We still have prisoners of war over there. We know it, and our government won't stand behind them, and that's what the Rolling Thunder's about. We're trying to bring them boys home on Vietnam War everywhere.
Now, I noticed you have a balloon. You were passing out balloons to a lot of people. Can you tell us what the balloon represents?
They're the POW MIA balloons we set off every year. There are 51 still missing from the state of Indiana from Vietnam that have not been brought home. Every balloon has a tag on it, and it has the soldier's name that's still missing and their lost date. Like the one I'm holding is Charles Rogers. He was Air Force from Gary, and his lost date's May 4th, 1967. We do a roll call, and each one of the 51 names are named off. They'll step forward and say, "Still missing, sir." And then at the very end, we'll let off all the balloons, and it's in honor of them and to try to draw attention to everyone that sees them go up in the air, so people will understand that these men deserve to be brought home, dead or alive. They risk their lives for us, and they belong to, at least they deserve to be buried on American soil.
Governor Mitch Daniels was doing the governor's ride, right, and Steel Horse covered that many times. Unfortunately, I didn't realize you were doing one last year, and by the time I found out, we were already scheduled somewhere else.
That's all right.
So that's going on again this year, correct?
It is July 25th, and we'll be headed back out with hundreds and hundreds of bikers from all across the state. I'm excited about it. Last year was my first one, and I grew up riding motorcycles, but I frankly, after I got married, my wife, who'd had a motorcycle, said, let's stick with 4 wheels for a while, but we're back on the bikes now and enjoying it. And there's such a great tradition, as you celebrate all the time, of motorcycle riding in Indiana, and the chance to raise money for our Indiana National Guard Family Relief Fund it's just a real joy. I'm looking forward to it.
got a pretty nice looking bike right here. It's definitely not a chick bike. Tell me a little bit about it.
It's a 2004 Kustom Road King, and it's definitely not a girly bike.
No, there's nothing girly about it at all. So how long have you been riding?
10 years.
What made you decide to get on a bike and start riding yourself?
Passion. Wind in my hair, freedom of the road. It was on my bucket list.
Well, and you kind of come across to me as the person that doesn't want to have to depend on a guy to ride her around.
Nope, I'm independent.
I kind of noticed that. So is this your first bike?
No, I had a 883 Sportster. That was my first bike, and I rode it for 3 years. It was too small for me, and I wanted a bigger bike. So I traded it in and got the biggest bike there was.
Well, oddly enough, I went from an 82 Sportster to a 2000 Road King, which I'm still riding today. So, do you have plans this year? Any kind of trips in mind, or?
No, just catch every ride I can possibly catch every weekend.
Now, is that the kind of riding you like to do? Do you like to do a lot of the charity rides and
Charity
stuff?
rides, yeah. I do a lot of charity rides. My mom died from brain cancer, so I like to do a lot of cancer rides, charity rides, anything for charities. So
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
A lady with a big bike and a big heart to match.
Yeah. Well, I'm a nurse by trade, and so, I see a lot. So, I follow my heart.
Good for you. You keep following your heart, and I know you're going to have a lot of great, safe miles ahead of you.
Thank you.
I know this weekend a lot of bikes are heading down to Washington, D.C. for the Run to the Wall. It's a great cause. There's going to be about 1 million motorcycles there. But Cindy and I have our own personal journey that we like to take on Memorial Weekend. Cindy, you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, 7 years ago, on Memorial Day weekend, we lost our son to suicide. So every year on Memorial Day weekend, we try to go out to his graveside.
We're going to head out to St. Louis. He's buried out there in Fairview Heights. And it's a tough ride. It's emotional, but it's a journey that we need to take every year. And we thought this year we'd invite you to come along and take the journey with us. Eric was one of those kids, had a great imagination when he was younger. Me and his mom were divorced shortly after he was born. Cindy and I got together. He was only 2 years old. So Eric, growing up, all he ever knew was his mom, and he knew Scott and Dad and Cindy. And so this is who he's known, knew all his life, and that was just his life. He struggled dearly with not having Dad at home. I hated that part of it. Unfortunately, the way things worked out, that wasn't possible.
As far as the love, my love for him was no different than my own kids. I loved him just as much as I loved my own kids. I always felt like he was mine. Eric was always trying to be funny. He loved his cowboy hat. He loved his dog, Sparkly. He loved music and karaoke.
And then as he started getting older, he was all about the Army. He was in ROTC when he got into high school, and he stayed in ROTC all the way up until the point when he graduated. That was his ambition, was to get into the Army. The cool thing about being part of the motorcycle community is you have brothers and sisters everywhere you look. For example, we simply stop at a gas station and we have a bunch of brothers and sisters from CMA come over and want to bless our bikes before we take our long journey. Amen. Thank you very much. I need a hug.
Not too bad.
Okay.
On the motorcycle, you know, we're both on our own bikes. We don't get a chance to talk to each other, and it just gives you a chance to kind of unwind and kind of lose my mind a little bit, if that makes any sense. To the fact that I can just think about everything. You know, if we're in the car, we're just talking strictly about Eric and about everything. Whereas on the bike, I can kind of lose it a little bit. We're not on the interstate. We're on back roads. We take time to stop at, you know, a local place to eat lunch, and it just kind of breaks everything up. And you know, kind of for me actually, it kind of helps. It's kind of my medicine.
For me. It's just a release. I feel like that it helps me to be able to ride out and kind of clear my mind before I get there, because it is very emotional for me. So for me, it's good to be able to just ride out, think about all the good times we had with Eric.
You know, the best thing about taking a trip on a bike is you stay off the highways. So here we are on the back roads coming through. We're about halfway between Indianapolis and St. Louis, and nothing better than to find an old mom and pop, a small little diner, something to go get a bite to eat at. Anybody can go to McDonald's or Burger King, but not everybody gets to and I don't know how you say it. Do you say hog and dog, or do you say hog and dog? I'm not sure.
Hog.
Hog and dog, and that's what we're gonna go find out, just how good it is. Hey, not only is the eating good here, but they got some pretty people around this place too. It's well worth stopping here. So, what kind of food do you guys have?
We have barbecue, and we have ribs, and we have sides. We have homemade mashed potatoes, gravy, macaroni and cheese.
I know you got brisket, because I got my eye on the brisket.
We make our own mac salad and potato salad, coleslaw. It's really good. The coleslaw's pretty famous. It's good.
So now, I understand a lot of the truck drivers like to come out here?
Yeah, truck drivers are here about every day for a couple hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have a funny feeling, I know a lot of truck drivers, and I have a funny feeling why they're here, but you know what? The food's gotta be good to keep them coming back.
Awesome, it's amazing. The best barbecue in town. Best barbecue in this county.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
And I understand it's the cleanest restaurant around too, isn't it?
It sure is.
Well, and we appreciate you guys comping our meal for us today and everything else. That was awesome. Just kidding, we pay full price, just like everybody else. Well, I know you ladies got to get back into work, so we're going to let you go, but thanks for letting us stop here and share a part of our story with you and some of your story with us.
Well, thank you, and we hope you come back.
When I saw a Poplar Bluff area code, I saw that 573 area code, I knew it was him, and I instantly knew the result.
It was devastating for all of us, but I think you play all those roles. As a stepmom, you're trying to support your husband, support your kids. You're trying to understand the situation, and it was difficult.
Both of us felt very isolated. That's the worst part about suicide.
It was lonely, and people just kind of left us. I don't know, we were just all left alone.
There's nothing worse than coming home from being gone 4 days, doing a funeral for your son. You come home and none of your friends are around anymore. People don't come by anymore. Your pastor didn't even mention it to the church because he didn't want to say anything about suicide, so nobody in church even knows it happened. And the ones that do know have a tendency to avoid you because it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about.
Motorcycles is a big role in this. We basically went on with life for a few months until we got to a point where we couldn't handle it anymore. We decided to get on the bikes and take off, and didn't really know where we were going to go, but ended up going out to West Virginia and rode for 3 days. Really didn't talk to each other except for at night. But that was our getaway. That's what helped us get through it, was to just be able to be on the bikes and just let everything go. And it helped tremendously. I don't know what I would have done without my bike at that time.
Getting on the bike and being able to ride, it clears my head. I can lose myself in the scenery around me. You know, when you're on a bike, it's, you know, the old saying, you know, 4 wheels moves the body, 2 wheels moves the soul. And that's very true. It's, you smell everything, you hear everything.
It seems to, the closer you get to the gravesite, the harder it gets, the more emotional you get. So it's still a great ride, and I'd rather be on the bikes than in a car.
I had the privilege of the last year before he grew up and got married and everything else, his last year with us. For the summertime, he came out and I was able to bring him to work with me at the sawmill. It was probably the first time I realized Eric was growing up and was becoming a man. And I was able to work with him for a few weeks, you know, and take lunch together, and instead of just being the dad that had to keep telling him what he was supposed to be doing and trying to teach him all the right things and stuff, I had a chance to be his buddy. We had a chance to be friends. You know, obviously that's something I'll never, ever, ever forget.
So when Heather got pregnant with her first child, they gave her the due date of May 2nd. And most women don't go on their due date, so we didn't expect for her to go on her due date. And sure enough, she did. And so our grandson and Eric share the same birthday, May 2nd.
So yeah, this year it's a little doubly sad. Looking at May 27th, and I realize it'll be 7 years since Eric passed, but I also realize May 27th, it'll make 1 year since Steve Reeves passed. And I'm kind of glad it went that way. You know, this day already sucks. Well guys, thank you for letting us share a little bit of our story with you. I want to remind you that on June 29th, we're doing the Suicide Prevention Ride. I want to invite everybody that can come on out and help us raise what we can for the awareness. Cindy, how was this ride for you?
It was a good ride. It was very emotional. It's always difficult for us to come out here, but it was a good ride. And it looks like you got a lot of sun today.
I got way too much sun. Don't forget the sunscreen when you ride.
Fried.
And remember, it's not what you ride.
It's that you ride.
Is Bill Bailey, B-A-I-L-E-Y.
B-I-L-L?
Yeah.
That had to do with last week's episode. What part of that? We're up here and... So Robert, what made... What?
J-I-M-S-M-I-T-H from Covington, Indiana.
Jim Smith. Are we going to see your face at the post office on the wall?
It might be next to Bill Jones.
You know the cool thing about being on the... Well, after... Love the rednecks. They're heading out to the... Not only is the eating good here, but my gosh, they got a pretty clientele here. You know, one thing that has just cracked me up from day one is the fact that he is buried right beside Davy Crockett. And to me, I just know he would get a big kick out of knowing that.